Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AiTA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Sunday Sandgrace. My husband says I'm selfish for choosing my life over our baby in a pregnancy crisis. AiTA? My husband and I were discussing hypothetical situations related to pregnancy and women's health. I asked him, if there was a life and death situation during childbirth and he had to choose between me and our unborn child, who would he choose? Without hesitation, he said he would choose the child. Then he asked, wouldn't you? I told him I would want to be chosen to live. His response was to call me selfish for saying that. This has left me feeling conflicted. Is it wrong to want to prioritize my own life in that situation? How would you feel in my position? Update. Hi everyone. I didn't realize this could blow up and I am feeling overwhelmed, but also grateful for each and every one for taking the time in writing their thoughts and feelings about the matter. And to those who shared their birth experiences, know that you are seen, loved, and held. And to those who are expecting, I am praying for a safe birth for you and your babies. Just to be clear, I am not currently pregnant, but my husband and I are open to having children. The only reason why we had this conversation in the first place is because of my age, and there is a possibility for complications. I couldn't really get into more details for privacy reasons. Know that this matter will also be brought up in marriage counseling in hopes to gain more clarity in what has transpired. Again, thank you everyone from the bottom of my heart. OP is not the AH for prioritizing her life, especially in a hypothetical scenario. Rather, OP's husband is AH for his behavior, and his reaction lacks empathy and dismisses her valid concerns about potential health risks during pregnancy, so I would rate him 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from Queasy_freedom, 8142. AiTA for telling my daughter I don't want to continue paying for her private college if she changes her major. My daughter goes to a private school. The only reason she goes there is because the school was near enough to our house, 30 to 40-minute commute. It offered her a scholarship that covered about 65% of the cost, and it has a music program. She wanted to pursue music, specifically music education. She has always wanted to be a teacher. A music education degree would allow her to get better at her craft and get credentialed to teach. Because of music and her instrument not being offered at the community college, because the local state university did not accept her, and because sending her elsewhere, where we would have to pay for room and board, making the cost comparable to the private school, when you take scholarships into account, it made sense to send her to this school. It still costs us a lot though. Between grandma and her dad and I combined, we are paying about $18,000 a year. She's currently in her junior year. She has 1.5 years left to graduate. She's burnt out. She may have possibly developed an eating disorder as well, and is struggling with depression. I've tried to get her to sign up for an outpatient program and take a semester medical leave, but she doesn't want to. I've tried getting her to find a therapist. She hasn't tried. She's seen a doctor and that's kind of it. Got prescribed an SSRI, and I've tried to encourage her to see a therapist first, but anyway, this is relevant because her state of mind is not the best. She's 20 years old. I can't sign her up for these things. She says she doesn't want to take a semester off and that she no longer wants to do this major. It's too much for her. She doesn't want to come back to it at a later time. She's set on changing her major to elementary education. The problem is that it isn't even possible to do and still finish at the college in time. She would need an additional semester, and that one would not include the scholarship, and it would be obviously very expensive because it's a private school. I refuse to pay for additional semesters. We can't afford that, and I've discouraged her from thinking she can take out a loan for that. Not with being a teacher as the job she'll end up with. She's tried talking to everybody at the college, trying to sort out how she could change her major and finish on time. Lots of roadblocks. She's crying about it all the time. Keeps getting her hopes up about something, but then it doesn't work out. The more I've thought about it, the more I feel I will resent her for having us pay our part of the next 1.5 years. So like a total of $27,000 between grandma and parents, just for her to get an elementary education degree. I would never have sent her to this college if it wasn't for the fact they had a music program that she could be a part of. In my opinion, if she is done with the idea of getting a music degree, she should leave this school and transfer to the local state college. It's way more affordable. They'll have the degree option she wants, and it won't matter if it takes her forever to finding. We can pay it for years and still save money. It's like $4K per year total. But she's very upset. She doesn't want to leave her private school, but she doesn't want a music degree anymore. I already communicated that I wasn't comfortable paying all this money for a degree not in music, that I think she should either find a way to finish music there or leave the place and do elementary education elsewhere. I know that a music education career wasn't necessarily worth a private education either, but it was my sort of compromise between something practical, an ed degree where you graduate with what you need for credentials, and something dreamy, music. I thought it was her dream, and I didn't want to kill it, so I supported her and paid for it, instead of sending her to community college. Starting to regret that choice now, but I'm not seeing the sense in staying there for something offered much cheaper nearby. But I'm worried about her mental and physical well-being. My girl is a mess right now. I recall being young and having no sense of the cost of things, and my mom really quickly made me get over it by stating point blank she wasn't going to pay for what I wanted, room and board away from home. I got over it quick when I learned it was not an option, even though I was upset at first. I'm thinking it may be best to just be blunt and tell her I'm not paying this. But I'm worried how she's doing mentally. But it feels so messed up that I would have to pay for private school to keep her mental health from collapsing. I didn't say to her that I would not do it. I simply said I didn't feel good about doing it, and that I think she should leave the school if she stops the current degree. Was I the for suggesting I don't want to pay for it? OP is not the AH for refusing to pay exorbitant fees for an unnecessary degree change. OP is prioritizing his financial practicality while offering reasonable alternatives to her daughter. OP's daughter's mental health is concerning, but OP has tried to support her. So, OP is not an AH for refusal. Let's now jump on to the next story from own-ad 5505. AiTA for thinking he liked me? I, 29F, have worked at the same indoor pool for nearly 7 years. He has been a regular longer than I have worked there. I am pretty sure he is in his 30s. We never had the chance for a chat until maybe 2 to 3 years ago. It was no personal chat, just him asking for a work-related favor. Shortly after this chat, my work schedule started changing, and we had more opportunities for greetings every time he arrived. They were just casual greetings with some work-related request every now and then. I didn't think much of it until one day his behavior changed a bit, and I started paying more attention to him. The day things changed was a day that I saw him come in, and when he said, "Hello," he got the biggest smile ever. I remember really liking that smile and hoping I would be able to see it again. However, no matter how I greeted him after that day, things just became awkward. He started greeting in a shyer way and barely got any words sound out, and just did this awkward wave with the hand that was holding his gym bag. On top of that, while he was exercising in the pool, it felt like he started taking more and more breaks at the end of the pool, which would be in sight of where I would be, near the cash registers. There even was this one time where he had to leave earlier than normal, and for some reason, he chose to put on his sweater, coat, and shoes all the way in the entrance, where again, he would be in sight of where I was working. Now I really wanted to make a funny comment or something that day, but I am very shy and often misunderstood person, so backed out of saying anything. Another case would be whenever I wasn't working and ended up swimming myself just before he would arrive. Maybe he would say hi, but again things were still awkward. However, it did seem like he would take his breaks on the side of the pool wherever I was taking mine. First, I thought it was just coincidence, but then I tried taking my break on the other end, and he would still pop up on my side of the pool without saying a word or starting a chat. Now I do know that he has no problem talking to people, because I have both seen and heard him talking to pretty much everyone but me. He even stopped asking his normal requests favors whenever I was working, and rather asked my colleagues. The only reason I know this is because these colleagues always, for some reason, double check with me if it is okay or whatever. Now the cherry on top that really made me think he liked me, and that started changing my feelings, happened last spring. I had been on sick leave for maybe 2 weeks, and I did not see him for maybe 3 weeks. The day I saw him again, I was standing at the cash register closets to the entrance whilst he came in. I said hello, but it got kind of awkward when I realized he didn't say a word back, just the shy wave. He did, however, keep eye contact all the way from the entrance door until he got around the corner. He also walked strangely close to glass window that I was standing behind whilst keeping his eye contact. And I mean really much closer than anyone else, who doesn't need to come pay for a ticket. This made me look at the situation much more different, and right before the summer, I ended up taking a chance and left a note with his stuff saying that I think it would be fun to get to know each other. However, he ended up texting me back that he was really flattered, but that he was not on the market right now. This left me really confused, and for the entire summer it kind of kept hunting me on what his behavior meant. I ended up texting him one more time at the end of the summer. I'm not fully sure what I wrote anymore, but I remember thinking it could be seen as either a cute love letter or just simply pathetic. I do also think I mentioned the same occasion as above. He ended up apologizing for the misunderstanding and basically saying he was just trying to be polite by smiling and greeting, as he would towards everyone. Now my biggest confusion is that he neither time said anything about not being interested. I'm also aware that sharing this online can result in very unique responses, but I really want this mystery somewhat solved. So, what would your opinion be in a similar situation? And would a guy that is not interested really not write exactly those words? To me, it felt like he just gave excuses and that I really frightened him. He barely greets me now. One time I was standing in the same spot as where he kept the long eye contact, but I was looking at my phone when he came in. The second I looked up, he quickly turned his head. Other times, shit is just more awkward than before. Lastly, the reason I started falling for him, besides his cute smile, was mostly because I haven't met anyone in all my years working at a pool that loves swimming somewhat close as much as I do. He also seemed to maybe be a bit nerdy, which I am definitely, and I really think we could have been a good match. So, is it really so weird that I thought he liked me? Not that I am going to put myself out there anymore, but it is nice to know for other possible scenarios in the future. OP is not the AH, rather she misinterpreted her customer's friendliness as romantic interest. Her feelings were genuine, but his polite rejection and subsequent awkwardness suggest he wasn't interested. No problem, such misunderstandings often happen. You are not an AH for assuming something and clarifying it. Let's now jump onto the next story from OK_Badger3570. AiTA for telling my friend's sister about her breakup plans out of concern for her mental health. This is going to be very long, so sorry in advance. I feel like this whole thing has gotten way out of control. I, 14F, have a friend who we'll call Leah, 15F, who is planning to break up with her boyfriend later this week. She has been wanting to break up with him for several months, but is only just now deciding to do something. For about a week, she was acting very strange and kept coming to me saying things like, "Something happened and I need to talk to you," but then never elaborating. I know that Leah has struggled with her mental health since she was very young, so her saying things like that, plus her odd behavior, really concerned me. She kept telling me that there was nothing to worry about, but she's also told me multiple times that she wouldn't share if she was struggling so as not to burden others. I didn't believe that she was really okay, so I went to her sister, who we'll call Allie, 17F. Allie and I are on a sports team at our school, so after practice one day, I just asked if Leah was doing all right, because she'd been acting very off, and I was concerned. Allie was very worried and said that Leah had been acting strange at home for a while now. She was so nervous to the point that she almost cried, and I assured her that I would let her know if I thought Leah was a danger to herself. A week later, Leah finally told me that she was planning to leave her boyfriend, and that was her big secret. I of course was relieved, and when Allie asked me about her sister again, I told her without even thinking about it. I didn't want her to be worried anymore, and I didn't think it was a big deal at the time, because I knew Allie wouldn't tell the boyfriend. A few days later, Allie sent me a TikTok that was about girls who make plans to leave their boyfriends and said that it sounded like Leah, which I never responded to. The next day, I get a text from Leah asking if I told her sister about her wanting to break up. I said yes, and that I was sorry for telling her secret, but that I didn't want to leave Allie in the dark after I accidentally scared her. Leah said that she didn't care what my intentions are, because the action was still hurtful, which fair enough. I apologized again, and asked if there was anything I could do to make it up to her, because we've been friends for a long time, and I don't want to lose that over this. She said that I really betrayed her trust, and I said, I know I did, and I can't take that back, but I want to work to be better in the future, if you'll give me that chance. She didn't respond, so I sent one last paragraph basically saying that I was sorry, that I didn't mean to hurt her, and that I would give her space to figure out how she was feeling. The next day at school, she didn't talk to me like she normally did when I saw her in second period, which I expected because, like I said, I figured she would need space. When we got to lunch, she wouldn't even look at me, and I'm not exaggerating. I waved at her, and she turned around to start talking to another person. At the table, she looked at two of our friends, looked at me, and then told them that she needed to talk to them about something in the hall once they left. One of those friends later confirmed that she was telling them the whole thing. I didn't really mind that, because I understand that she might need to vent and figure out what to do. I did the same thing after I apologized and vented to a friend about how bad I felt for what I did. When we got to fifth period, I had to take a test, but before I left to do so, she looked at another girl who was sitting at our table and said, "I need to talk to you about something once she leaves." This shocked me because I know Leah does not like this girl and has complained multiple times about how she tells other people's business all the time and twists stories. Then, she pulled out her phone and showed the girl texts between her and a guy she's friends with who doesn't go to our school. The girl said, "Who's that about?" And Leah looked over at me, so I'm assuming it was about me. So, she's now told 4 people about this situation. I still wasn't upset, because like I said, I figured she needed to vent, and I don't really care what this girl says about me. I take my test and go to my next class. Halfway through, one of my friends texts me and says that Leah is telling everyone in her class, including the teacher, about what happened. She also apparently said that she knows I was faking when I said I never meant to hurt her. Which am I crazy to think that's her calling me a fake friend? To like 20 people? At this point, I was upset. I know I don't really have the right to be because I hurt her first, but I truly never meant to hurt her, and I only brought Allie into it at all out of a place of concern. I texted a friend, Maya, who already knew about the situation, had heard it from both me and Leah, so I figured she was the most unbiased person I could talk to, and asked what I should do. Maya told me that she thought Leah was blowing it way out of proportion, and that while I shouldn't have told Allie about the boyfriend thing, there was no reason for her to do all of this. I tried to approach Leah again and apologize, but she turned around and started talking to someone else like she couldn't hear me. All of this happened in the span of a day, and I feel literally sick to my stomach. I feel so bad for breaking Leah's trust, and I feel like I'm never going to get the chance to make it up to her. Plus, Maya is hosting a big Christmas party 4 days from now. It's a sleepover, and both me and Leah are coming. I asked Maya if she thought it would be better if I didn't come, or left before the sleepover started, so that I could still give the presents I bought. She said that if anyone should skip, it's Leah, but I don't think that would be fair. Like, I'm the one who started this disaster. I should have to put up with the consequences of it. I just don't want to ruin Leah's night or the party, so I think it would be better if I didn't go. Now all of our friends are picking sides, which isn't what I want at all. I'm not trying to turn people against Leah, but I think that's what she's going to see it as. Plus, there's people in my school who I don't even know who now think I'm an awful person, according to what my friends have overheard. I know I don't have the right to be offended or angry, but part of me feels like Leah is picking her anger over our friendship, and that really hurts me. I wouldn't even be mad about her telling people, even with everything she said. If she would just talk to me, then at least I would understand where she's at emotionally and could try to start making things better. Sorry if this is rambly. I'm just so confused right now. I know I shouldn't have told Allie, but do I really deserve this much backlash? I don't know what to do. AiTA? OP isn't the AH for being concerned about Leah's mental health, but sharing her secret with Allie was a breach of trust. While well-intentioned, OP should have respected Leah's privacy, and the aftermath shows the consequences of that decision. So, I would rate OP 1 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Substance Sweaty, 7969. AiTA for pulling my friend's jacket? I, 21M, was visiting my friend Robert, 22M, over Thanksgiving. He goes to a college in a major city in the US, and I haven't been there in a while. I thought why not go visit one of my best friends from high school before I make it back to my family for the break. It started as a great trip. The second night, it took a bit of a turn for the worse. We went out that night, where me and our other friend Patrick, 22M, get drunk, but I definitely was much more drunk. Robert stayed sober. We were waiting outside a bar when Robert's friend, who we were supposed to meet, comes outside and says he is going home. Thereafter, we leave the line because we did not want to pay a cover, and I can kind of tell that my friend Robert is upset. Patrick is on the phone with a girl to see if there is something to do later in the night. It's about 1 a.m. Robert suddenly goes, "I'm waiting 1 minute, then I want to go home." I then panic and grab his jacket along the zipper where it is unzipped and go, "No, you can't." Then I start freaking out, saying he can't leave. Robert, controlled but angry, says I cannot grab his jacket and I have no right to do that. I apologize, I think, but reiterate that he can't go home without us. I reminded him that you need a fob to get into the building and there's a doorman. Not to mention it had been my first time in his apartment and I was hammered. He says people open doors, we would be able to get in. He then turns around and says, "I'm going home, you guys can hang out." He then proceeds to start walking away. At this point, Patrick gets off the phone and starts walking with him. I learn later that Robert, instead of turning around to see if I was following, just kept asking Patrick if I am following. After eventually getting home, I ask if we can talk. He says yes. Once we get upstairs, we begin speaking where I, very drunkenly, apologized for grabbing his jacket, but also saying I was upset that he was icing me out. He keeps reiterating he can treat me any way he likes, that I most certainly have gotten to Robert's apartment with or without him, and that he would make sure we could get into the apartment. I become upset because he refused to apologize, started yelling, and his roommate might have been woken up. Eventually he says, "Let's just talk in the morning." Fast forward to the morning, Patrick leaves early and I am sleeping on the couch, which has me looking directly at the front door. After waiting till 11 a.m. I go to the bathroom. When Robert hears that he slips out of the apartment to go hang out with other friends and get food, I text him at 12 p.m. asking to talk. He tells me he's out. I ask to get food, talk things over, and try to get back to a fun weekend. He keeps dodging the question and tells me that I have access to his fridge if I want food. I wanted to go out and eat considering I was visiting a city I hadn't been to in 10 years. Eventually he comes back at 1:30 p.m. We begin speaking from 1:30 to 2:20. I immediately apologized for my poor behavior, acknowledged it was wrong for me to grab his jacket, shout in his house. I admitted I got too drunk, and I thanked him for letting me stay at his apartment. I asked for an apology though because he was refusing to talk to me. He acknowledged my apology but refused to offer one of his own, stating that because I pulled his jacket, all his behavior was justified. I pressured him on this point for a while, then changed tactics to ask why he didn't even text me that he left. After enough prodding, he admitted that he was afraid for his physical safety and felt that because his roommate and Patrick left, he couldn't be alone with me in a space. He needed his roommate, who he has known for about 2 years now, to be nearby. At this, I asked why should I even be visiting. I then packed my stuff up, most of the clothes I own, and wandered around the city because it was too expensive for me to switch my train to an earlier time. Extra detail that is important: Robert is 6'5", 235 pounds. His roommate also stands at 6'4", probably around 200 pounds. I stand at 5'9", 150 pounds. Me and Robert have been some of each other's best friends for 15 years old. Robert has a tendency to go to bed early. That, along with the fact that when I arrived at 1 a.m. on Friday, and he was not in his apartment, didn't answer his phone, and it took him 30 minutes to get to the lobby when I arrived on the first night. I didn't trust him to actually let me into the apartment. I know Robert is a really good friend of mine, and I love him, but the way he treated me was not the way I treat anyone who I am that close with. It was like I didn't recognize him. I think that has me anxious to text him, because I am worried I will be met with the same stubborn person who refused to see my side and wanted to continue the conflict. I understand that I might have acted entitled, but I also did not expect this treatment, behavior, or the dynamic of host versus guest to be thrown in my face so aggressively. It was shocking, and I know I can be prideful, but I still like to think there is a certain level of decency you treat your best friends with even if you get into a fight. TLDR? I pulled my friend's jacket when really drunk and got upset when he began to ice me out and not talk to me. This continued through the next morning, which resulted in a fight of me leaving and wandering a major city with my suitcase for 3 hours. I'll try and answer any questions. OP is partially the AH for grabbing Robert's jacket while drunk, which was an invasion of his personal space. However, Robert's behavior was also excessive. avoiding communication, and making OP feel unsafe. Both sides mishandled the situation, leading to conflict. So, as for scores, I would rate OP 1 out of 5 on the AH scale, and Robert 1.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Caravagist with Wings. AiTA for holding resentment towards a guy even after he said, sorry? So last month, I finally got tired of putting up with our campus dormitory and decided to move into an apartment near my university where the only occupants are students. The rooms for boys and girls are in separate buildings, but there is a common lounge connecting the two where both can hang out if they wanted. When I moved in, the girl, let's call her Jane, occupying the room in front of mine, welcomed me and chatted with me as I unpacked. As I set up my things, she noticed everything I own are in pairs, so I told her I have diagnosed OCD with suspected autism and that having everything in pairs makes me feel safe. She was so sweet about it, and we ended up chatting some more. Eventually, she told me she and some other occupants would often have a little get-together on Saturday nights at the common lounge, and told me I should attend this upcoming Saturday. I refused at first and told her socializing is a nightmare for me, but in the end, she was able to convince me by saying I can just give it a try, and if I ended up not liking it, I can just retreat back to my room anytime. Come Saturday, Jane and I head down to the common lounge together. She said everyone pitches in by making food, but since I'm new, I could just join for now. When we got to the common lounge, there were already a few people there, and the first person I noticed was this very tall, very handsome guy helping set up the table. I could instantly tell that everyone in that room was conscious of how gorgeous he was, based on how they acted around him, even the guys. I couldn't help but be conscious of him as well, but to not embarrass myself, I just stuck to Jane's side. Things were going well for me at first. I just kept nodding silently at whoever was talking, until near the end of dinner when the alcohol started pouring. During this time, Jane had gone up to get something from her room, so I kind of felt alone on the table. They were talking about stereotypes in interracial dating, when one of the guys asked Mr. Tall and Handsome, let's call him Eric, what type of girls he thinks are the prettiest, and he said tall girls with tanned skin and prominent facial features. He worded it differently, but it's the best way I can describe what he meant. Now, as a girl who had unfortunately developed a bit of a crush on the guy, I couldn't help but be disappointed that I was the exact opposite of his type. I knew I was being silly, so I shook the feeling off and distracted myself by picking out some food to continue eating, when suddenly, Eric commented out of the blue, "You've only been eating the nachos, do you not like the food?" The moment everyone in the table turned to look at me, my blood ran cold. I didn't want to explain my picky eating habits due to my condition. It's common for people on the spectrum to be picky eaters due to anxiety and sensory issues, to a table full of people I just met, so I told him I'm not that hungry, and nachos are my favorite. I know, I should have come up with a better excuse, but when you're in the situation, panicking, it's hard to articulate. I thought he'd just nod and let it go, but one of the girls pouted and said she and her friends did their best to make the food. They thought everyone would enjoy it. People started comforting her, telling her it's good, and I felt so bad for her that I was ready to explain myself, until I met Eric's eyes again and found him looking at me with obvious disdain. He was frowning at me with something close to disgust before turning to the girl and saying, "Food's great, it's not your fault." It sounded so wrong in my ears that my defenses went up. It's not her fault. So that means it's mine? Now I wanted to defend myself instead of explaining myself. I felt so awful I wanted to leave the table. My little crush on Eric just got snipped in the bud. Jane then came back. But after a few minutes, I excused myself with the pretense of going to the bathroom, when I actually went up to my room and cried myself to sleep out of anger. The next day, Jane knocked on my door and told me she wanted to share some noodles with me. I was glad she didn't bring up the fact that I just disappeared last night, so I agreed, and we went down to the little terrace connected to the common lounge to eat. When we got there, Eric and one of his guy friends were there. I could feel the tension in the air as we passed by them, so I kept my head down. But to my horror, Eric called out to me, so I had no choice but to stop. His face was serious as he said something along the lines of, "Hey, sorry about last night. I called you out for only eating nachos without considering your reason. It was rude of me, I'm sorry." I told him it was okay, waving my hand and all. As I sat down with Jane on the terrace table, Eric tried to make small talk with us. I let Jane do the talking because I still felt uncomfortable, but Eric and his friend kept purposely including me in the conversation. When Jane and I finished and headed up to our rooms, I asked her what could have possibly prompted Eric to apologize. That's when she looked at me all sheepishly and told me that last night, after I didn't come back after leaving the table, the girl who cooked most of the food brought up the incident. Remember that Jane wasn't there when Eric called me up, so she asked what the girl was talking about. When they told her, she got mad and said, "She literally has OCD. It's quite common for them to be picky about the food they eat. It's not something they can just control." Jane said they all changed their tune after that, and she also apologized for telling people about my OCD without my permission. I forgave her, of course, but I find it hard to act friendly with Eric even after he apologized. I know it was also my fault, because I could have just explained, but is it wrong for me to think that people shouldn't comment on the eating habits of someone they just met? I tried not to run into Eric, but today he saw me by the vending machines near the apartment gates and tried making small talk again. I know he already said sorry, but I can't seem to be warm towards him. I keep thinking about how awful I felt when he called me out. I hate being an asshole. I feel like I'm being mean and I don't like it. Does anyone know how to get over such resentment quickly? TLDR. A guy calls me out for being a picky eater at a get-together, but I had trouble explaining myself. He apologizes the next day, but I find it hard to act friendly with him. What do I do to get over this? OP isn't an AH. Eric was rude and inconsiderate, and although he apologized, OP's discomfort is understandable. It's not wrong to feel resentment after being publicly embarrassed, especially when the apology didn't immediately resolve the emotional impact. Let's now move on to the next story from Ovis Iris. AiTA for telling my sister her baby's name sounds ridiculous, and she should change it? My 29F sister Claire, 34F, is pregnant with her first child, and I'm genuinely happy for her. She's had a rough couple of years, so it's nice to see her so excited about something. That said, she's taken the excitement to a weird level. She's decided to name her baby something unique, and I think it's borderline cruel. The name she's chosen for her future daughter? Malaya Serafin. Yes, spelled exactly like that. Claire insists it's pronounced Malaya Serafin, but she's adamant about keeping the creative spelling because normal names are boring, and my daughter deserves to stand out. When she told me, I was caught off guard and just blurted out, "Are you serious?" She looked hurt and asked why I didn't like it, so I, probably too bluntly, said, "Because it sounds like a Wi-Fi password." Claire immediately got defensive, saying I was being judgmental and unsupportive, and that no one else had a problem with it. Side note, I later found out our dad laughed out loud when he heard it, but tried to cover it up. I tried to tread carefully, but I told her I thought the spelling was going to make her daughter's life harder than it needed to be. Teachers, doctors, employers, everyone will constantly be mispronouncing it or spelling it wrong. Claire shot back that it's her child, and I don't get a say. And I need to get with the times, because kids today have unique names, and no one cares anymore. Here's where things got worse. At a family dinner, Claire brought up the name again, and I made the mistake of saying, "You know, you're naming a person, not a fairy in a fantasy novel." She stormed out, and now she's refusing to speak to me, unless I apologize for mocking her creativity. My dad is staying out of it, but my stepmom thinks I was wrong to criticize the name, and should just let Claire do what she wants. I love my sister, but I can't shake the feeling that she's prioritizing her ego over her baby's future. Am I the for being honest, or should I have kept my opinion to myself? OP is a little bit H for being too blunt and mocking. While Claire's name choice is questionable, OP could have voiced concerns more tactfully instead of ridiculing her sister. So, as for scores, I would rate OP 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and Claire gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from Complete-Might-5559. AiTA for wanting to stay up late on my last free of responsibility holiday. I, 18F, have recently graduated high school. Australia school ends Octnov for grads. And turned 18. I don't plan to take a year break. I plan to get into work straight away 2025 while I try to get an apprenticeship for my dream job. A lot more background context, as I believe I need to give a lot to not seem like a massive in general, is I'm severely disabled and have had a very rocky relationship with my parents for years. My 40F mum believes I use my disabilities as an excuse for everything. Won't say much here as it just be a trauma dump, but I'm seen as the failure of the family to the point where she accidentally even admitted a year ago she didn't love me. I know my disabilities cause a lot of my pathways to be cut off, but I still want to do pathways and try hard, pushing my own boundaries to show I can act not disabled. When my mum says I use my disability to not do things, it's for stupid things like not wanting to go to an overcrowded event where I have to stand for long periods. Leg issues plus autism plus other issues. But it's never for jobs and responsibilities. She is the one that uses my disabilities as an excuse. Oh, I want to work in childcare? But I'm too disabled according to my mum. I want to do tattoo work? Too disabled. I want to do anything work related. I'm too disabled. She discourages me from everything, telling me to avoid getting jobs I believe I can do, but also, if I don't get a job, I risk being kicked out. She only stopped with the childcare thing as I got work placement through school with kids and proved her wrong. I plan to get a job. In January-start of February, the reason I'm not doing it now is because I am recovering from a surgery, one of which is in my feet, so I can't stand for more than 10 minutes without severe pains and can't wear enclosed shoes. I decided I will wait for surgery recovery and wait to get my tattoo, birthday gift from Dad, so I have no open wounds injuries as I start. Because I want to start professionally and in a way that is good for my resume, I've had volunteering work placement jobs before, so I know how to be professional from experience. I don't want my first out-of-school job to go wrong from being dumb. Simple. And my mum knows this, as I've told her. So, I taking this into consideration, wanted to have my last bit of childhood, really. Last bit of not having proper responsibilities to myself. So I stay up late gaming with my friends, not loudly, as my mum only realizes I'm awake when she gets up to pee or deal with the cats. We stay up, play dumb games, read subreddits, watch movies. It gets to sometimes 2 a.m. Usually it's maxed at 1 a.m. My mum is threatening to shut off my internet at 12 a.m. every night now, which usually means sooner. They've done 10 p.m. before repeatedly, talking about me being irresponsible, mocking me at dinner-lunch for my sleep patterns and the way I am. Not doing it over money concerns with bills, but over being disappointed in me for acting this way. I get that staying up late isn't good for sleep schedules, but a disability, won't go into, makes me severely tired, have fatigue, it has my entire life, so I understand when I should go to bed if I have work. As yet again I've had work placement. I know how my body works and reacts to different sleeping times patterns. I know that if I go to bed at a certain time, I'll wake up a certain time and have to nap at a certain time. I know the specific times I need to do to get a good sleep schedule for working. I'm not dumb about my own body. I don't plan to do this every night until I work. I plan to stop once it gets around time to work. I can reset my sleep schedule incredibly fast. I know that as I know me. But my mum treats me as if I don't. She treats me as if I'm ruining my chances at ever being good at working. Even making it clear she believes it will mess me up for working through saying so. I think I'd be more understanding if it was about the bills, but I'm an adult who just wants to spend the last bit of my free time on my last ever school holidays, doing what I want as late as I want, because it's the last time I can do that really. If it was about bills, I'd be willing to give some of my birthday money to contribute, so I'm not a disturbance for using internet this late. I've talked to a friend about it, and they agree the threats to turn off internet are out there, but we are both neurodivergent, don't get social cues. So, I need a second opinion. I just don't get why I'm not allowed a few weeks of freedom. I'm not waking people up. I tend to whisper to not wake everyone up. They only realize I'm awake when they wake themselves up. It's not like I'm going to do this for months. It's 2 months max before I get to bed at a proper time and go to work. AiTA? Slight out of point note. I'm not going into most of my disability due to the nature of a lot of my disabilities. If I were to tell them, some people would know who I was. OP is not the AH. She is an adult responsibly planning for work and just want a short period of freedom before responsibilities begin. Her mom's control seems more about power than genuine concern, especially given her history of discouragement. So, OP's mom is an AH, and I would rate her 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now move on to the next story from Celebration Cool 7393. AiTA for telling my friend she can't do my sister's hair because of what my sister has done to me. I live with my cousin. We have called each other sisters basically our entire lives, and I will call her my sister for this story. So basically my mum took kinship care over her, about 10 years ago now, taking her out of foster care. I have done so much for her over these years, including letting her live with me when I moved out of our house for a bit, because she didn't want to live there anymore either. Anyway, last year I made a new friend. We got extremely close, and because my sister lived with me too, they got to know each other as well, and over the months they slowly started to get closer. My sister had a boyfriend, now her ex, and it was very toxic. When they broke up, my sister and friend started hanging out a lot more. One day he was threatening to come over and talk to her face to face. He was high on drugs, and I was about to leave for work. Knowing my friend wasn't working that day, I rang her and asked if she could come over and just stay with my sister, just in case he rocked up as she was alone in the house. She went over and they spent the day together. Ever since that day, they had started pushing me to the side. When I questioned this, the friend said it was because my sister was going through stuff with her ex and needed someone to talk to. At the time, I understood and thanked friend for being there for her. Then a week or so later, it is mine and my sister's birthdays. We are a day apart, with hers being first. The friend made a big deal out of her birthday that morning with a post on Instagram with multiple photos of them, which was fine, of course. We all went out for dinner that night for a joint birthday dinner. Myself, sister, friend, friend's boyfriend, and my mum. And I could tell the vibe was off with the friend. She was just cold to me and not engaging or initiating conversation at all. That weekend, we all went away as we had booked to stay somewhere for our birthdays. I messaged the friend the morning of saying I did not want her to come if she was going to be weird with me and be there for my sister more than me. Keep in mind my sister is 16 and this friend is 25. She said of course she is there for me more than her, as we were meant to be best friends, and my sister was just the tag along. The weekend happens and we are all hanging out together and everything seems fine. Forward a week later from then, I messaged the friend asking if she wanted to go to a waterfall for the day, and she replied with, she had plans with her boyfriend. Okay, that's fine. But then I see my sister getting ready. As she's about to walk out the door, I ask her where she is going. She says out with her friends from school. I had friend's location at the time and seen she was out the front of my house. She was picking my sister up and lied to me about it. This is when I absolutely lose my shit. All the lies and betrayal finally weighed on me, and I call my mum spiraling. For some stupid reason, she calls the friend and tells her what's happening and asks her to come and check on me. I had locked all of the doors so none of them could get in, but of course my sister was there, and she had a house key. My sister waits in the car, and friend and her boyfriend come into my room. I am naked having a shower, bawling my eyes out, with music blasting, trying to calm myself down, and in they walk. The boyfriend stands at the bathroom door, with his back turned so he can't see, like a security guard standing out the front of a nightclub, because my mum told her to be careful going in, as I was going crazy, and was in the state of mind to punch a in the face, especially her. She tried to reason with me, saying they were just going for a drive, then they were going to drop my sister back off, and then go and do their plans for the day. I screamed at her, and told them to get the out of my house. I felt more betrayed by my sister than I did her for lying to me about where she was going, and who it was with, because that is my family, and I would never do that to her behind her back with her own friends. This would be like me hanging out with one of my sister's 16-year-old friend at my age of 23 and not telling her about it. So, my sister and her ex started talking again, and she told him I had chased her around the house with a knife when this happened. She did not even get out of the car. That is not a little white lie. That is something major to lie about, and could have gotten me in trouble. Fast forward to this day, my sister and I do not speak, and we still live in the same house. And yes, the friend and my sister are still friends. They hang out constantly and walk around on the phone 24/7, and my sister puts her on loudspeaker, hoping I hear that they are talking, like it's a brag. My mom is completely on my side, and so is our whole family and everyone I tell this story to. I have had to put a camera in my room as she kept on coming in and stealing my things. A couple of weeks ago, an actual friend of mine broke up with her boyfriend, and we decided that it would be good if she moved in with me into the spare bedroom. Now I have noticed my sister trying to get close with her too. She tries to have conversations with her when me and my friend are sitting together, and the other day asked her to do her hair. Actual friend was a hairdresser. Before this friend moved in, she knew the situation with my sister and was on my side. I told her that if she wanted to live here, she needed to accept my boundaries, and one of those was not being close with my sister. Civil is fine. Yes, this may seem harsh, but given what I just went through with her and losing a close friend because of it, meant I was putting in firm boundaries. Of course, I want her to be comfortable and small talk with her is okay. I just don't want them hanging out or doing anything friendly. Basically, just be roommates. The other day, my sister asked again if she would do her hair for her, and my friend agreed and said only if she pays her. I did not know about this until hearing her talk about it with my mom. I of course got upset, because this was one of the things I had asked her not to do. It will make me feel extremely uncomfortable, considering my sister hasn't even apologized to me for what she has done, and we aren't talking. I do not want my friend being manipulated by her too, and risk going through that whole situation again. I told my friend I don't want her doing my sister's hair, and if she really cared about the money so much, I would send her what she would have paid to get it done. Am I being petty in this situation? Should I just let it go? It's hard because I know in my sister's narcissistic mind, she will think she is one-upping me again and creeping her way into another one of my friendships. I don't know what to do. To add, me, my mum, sister, and now my friend all rent a house together. I don't live alone anymore, just with my sister. So, I can't necessarily kick her out, as my mum won't allow that. She is now 17. Edit. For anyone saying this is fictional, it is not. I am diagnosed with autism as well as ADHD, dyslexia, and the list goes on. So, I'm sorry if the story is a bit all over the place and written bad. I tried my best. OP is not the AH for enforcing boundaries after her sister's extreme betrayal and lies. Given past experiences, her concerns about losing another friend are valid. Her request isn't unreasonable. She just wants respect and distance from a toxic sibling, which is her very right. As for scores, I would rate OP's sister 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from Mother of Sheefords. AiTA for cutting my ex out of our dogs' lives. I, 34F, was dating my ex, 37M, for 13 years. I own my own house, which we lived together in with our 3 dogs aged 4, 8, and 11 years old for 8 years. I purchased them all myself, signed the adoption-purchase papers alone, took them to all of their obedience and sports classes, worked through potty training and behavioral issues alone, brought them to the vet alone, cared for them when they were ill, kept track of and gave them their required meds alone, groomed and bathed them, cleaned all their poop from the backyard, fed them, and was overall the main caretaker. My ex worked out of town on dash-off for the last 8 years for variable times, usually a week or 2 at a time, but sometimes for up to 2-month stints. There were some years he was barely home. I've never minded being the sole caretaker, as that means I could accomplish training goals easier, and we got used to my ex not being around a lot or relying on him. He would play dash walk dash, interact with them when he was home, but was never involved in their training dash activities, dash general care. He calls them his babies, and it's obvious that he loves them very much, and they love him too. However, they are just fine with his absence as well. My ex would help fund their food dash vet bills and would contribute financially to my house as well. I charged him $600 in rent. I paid full utilities and taxes. Mortgage is $1,200 per month, and he would do fixes around the house when time allowed. Him, his brothers, and I finished my roughed-in basement and bathroom with his expertise. He got a lot of free supplies at work and had a lot of tools already from his work to use, but did have to buy specific tools for the bathroom job and bought a lot of the supplies for the bathroom. I did contribute as well, but not as heavily. As part of our agreement for the bathroom, his dad was allowed to live with us for free for as long as he wanted during a rough patch in his marriage, though he only ended up staying a month. We have been broken up for 9 months and have been sharing the dogs. He lives with his parents now, works out of town a lot still, and will come take the dogs for a walk a few times a month, or take a dog for the weekend. His parents are not dog people, and do not like having the dogs around, so having him keep even one dog at his house doesn't work. He still calls them his dogs though. When he left initially, he put a TV dinner tray through my wall because he was mad that I apologized for wasting his time. When I changed the locks on the door after he moved out, he blew up on me and came over to yell at me about how stupid it was that he didn't have access to my house anymore, as it meant much less access to the dogs for him. He also told me he should go destroy my bathroom, that he just renovated and played the victim, until I felt bad enough that I agreed to terms I was not comfortable with just to get out of the situation. Throughout our relationship, he had an explosive anger problem that was random and did result in holes in the wall several times. He refused to admit it was an issue. Each argument we had, he would bring back every mistake I had made to the point where I still cry/scream at myself when I take a wrong turn in a car or get anxiety when I'm wrong, as it might get thrown in my face for the next 13 years. He was constantly putting me down for my actions, -thoughts-looks, and strung me along for a long time about wanting kids. He never supported me through our infertility journey or my miscarriage. He never put his hands on me, but his abusive behavior and history of explosive anger make me worried that if I take the dogs away, he will get violent, either physically or verbally. I did offer to give him one of my dogs when he has a more stationary job. Dash has his own place and have a clean split, but he was adamant that he wanted to stay in all the dogs' lives. He is a horrible partner, but he loves the dogs very much and would likely take good care of them. I have since changed my mind, however, and want to keep all of my dogs that I have carefully raised. I can't imagine being tied to this man anymore. I don't want to co-own co-parent dogs with him for the next 7+ years. I want to be free to start a new relationship family without him looming in the background. I don't enjoy having to see talk to him. It brings up bad memories and pain. I don't know if cutting him out completely is the right thing to do though, and I feel really guilty about it. He helped me out financially with them for years. He helped take care of them. He loves and cares for them, and was there for most of their lives. He also helped me out financially by finishing my basement bathroom, which I am incredibly grateful for. He saved me several thousand than if I had to do it myself, and I learned a lot about home renovations from him. AiTA. If I didn't let him see the dogs anymore, if I do cut him out, how do I do it so it causes him the least amount of pain and keeps me safe? He lives very close to me now, and while he doesn't have a history of violence, his anger issues mean that retaliation/violence isn't out of the question. I would love to take the dogs and run, but financial situations and the housing market means that I'm stuck where I'm at, 5 minutes from where he currently lives. OP is not an AH for prioritizing her mental health and moving on from an abusive relationship. The dogs are her responsibility, and she should be able to set boundaries without feeling guilty for protecting herself. So, OP is not an AH, and I would rate her 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's ex-boyfriend, I would rate him 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Jailamara44. AiTA for not acting as if nothing had happened after my friend reported me to the police? I'm in my last year of college, literally 2 weeks away from graduating, and I'll probably never see him again, so I want to know if it's worth forgiving and forgetting. For some context, I had a best friend, Philip, who I've been friends with since elementary school. We went to the same college to be together, and because we were both afraid of being alone, we're both kind of shy and misfits. Philip managed to make friends, while I couldn't break out of my shell, so honestly, I've been holding on to him a lot throughout college. I have a disease that makes my joints hurt a lot to the point where I feel like I'm going to pass out. I take pain medication to control the pain, but it usually takes a few minutes to take effect. A month ago, we were leaving to class when the pain started. I took the medicine, but all I wanted to do was go home, take a cold shower, and try to sleep. The pain was getting more intense. Philip wanted to keep talking, and I wasn't listening. We have this game where we push each other playfully, or we tickle each other while we pull each other when we're not paying attention, and he started doing it. I told him to stop several times because I felt like my bones were breaking. I felt like my hip was about to explode, and as if instead of blood, I had needles in my bones. He kept pushing me, and finally, I got tired, and I pushed him. I didn't think much and ran home, which luckily is close to the university. I took a shower and went to bed, waiting for the medicine to take effect. Then I fell asleep. When I woke up, I noticed a lot of messages and missed calls. I always have my phone on Do Not Disturb. I was confused because several messages were from Philip's friends insulting me. It turns out that when I pushed him, I made him lose his balance, and since we were on the second floor, he fell down the stairs and broke his nose. I tried to communicate and apologize, but he had blocked me. The next day, I was summoned to the dean's office of my degree, and Philip's mother was there with the police to file a complaint against me for assault. I admit that I was scared and felt like my life was over. When I returned home, I told my mother about the situation, and she accompanied me to the university. She asked to see the security camera images, where Philip was seen jokingly pushing me and shaking me several times, and that I asked him to move away or tried to leave. The police took it as an accident, and in the end the process came to nothing. Philip's mother kept insisting that I should at least pay the hospital bills since the injury was serious. I did it only because I wanted to have a clear conscience. I thought that would be all, but Philip finally came back to class a week ago to turn in the necessary documents for graduation and talk to me. Apparently, he never wanted to report me, but since his nose was broken, the university staff called a relative to go look for him. That relative was his mother, and she found out what happened. She made a scandal at the university, which made more people find out what happened. She was the one who blocked me from Philip's phone and proceeded with the complaint. And since he was in the hospital, he didn't find out until it was too late. He has asked me to just forget about him. We have been friends for almost 14 years, and I know that my life without him will be difficult. He's almost the only friend I have in the world, but I feel strange. It's almost as if he were another person with the same face and voice of the friend I love. He has tried to return my money, but nothing feels the same. Several of Philip's friends have contacted me to apologize for insulting me and asked me to accept it since it was all an accident. But every time I think about it, I feel like crying. I know what happened was an accident, and Philip is the main victim, but this is not the first time he has done something to hurt me. I know I shouldn't feel this way, but this feels like one more betrayal, only this one is not one I can forgive. AiTA? OP is not an AH. While the situation was an accident, Philip's actions and the subsequent betrayal by his mother left OP feeling hurt and betrayed. It's understandable that OP may struggle to forgive, especially after the police involvement. As for Philip, he is an AH, and I would rate him 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing. Let's now move on to the next story from Guest TPR 1C3. AiTA for lying to my mother about every aspect of my life. My mum, 46F, and I, 17 Trans M, have been living alone, the two of us, for some time now since Dad left home. All good with him. Nothing to say. I get along with him, and I don't blame him for doing that. But sticking to the point, my mother and I have been living together for a few years. When I was little, we got along pretty well, except for the hurtful comments a Latina mother makes to her, then daughter, and my submissive attitude towards her. But in spite of that, I loved her. I still love her. She is my mom, after all. But it all starts when I'm about 11, 12? I'm not really sure, but it's in that awkward time where you are forging your own thoughts, and you are a fool in everything. This happened in the middle of the pandemic, with all my changes of tastes, and so I started to close myself more, want my space, and so, as any pre-puberty would want. But I started to keep secrets, many more secrets, and especially to escape from my mother when she wanted to check my phone. She did this since he bought me my first phone. We always had problems with that, but until then, nothing serious. But since then, I had started experimenting with my and gender. Nothing weird. I just had this weird feeling of, oh, I think I like being treated like a boy. And well, my mom had always shown the typical, I support him until he's my son. So I started to shut down more and more, and my mom noticed it. She hated it, and usually yelled at me for closing my door, or hiding my phone, or getting extremely nervous when I checked my computer. But here's a little detail. I was always very submissive. I never yelled at my mother or anything. I saw many times how she yelled and cried when I revealed myself, and, until now, I never revealed myself to her. And well, the whole pandemic was horrible. I just wanted to tell her that I had never revealed myself to her. The whole pandemic was horrible. I never thought, nor do I really think, of telling my mother about my trans identity or anything like that. So naturally, we started to drift apart, and she, well, tried to force it. I still remember how she would scream and cry in front of me, frantic as she screamed at me, I don't even know you, God. You are like your father, a stranger. Words from a fight we had when I was about 12 years old. I think it was because I hadn't told her about wanting to dye my hair. So in all these years, we have been very far apart since, well, I lie to her about everything. Yes, I lie to her about everything. From what they call me at school, to what movies I like, or how I want to dress. I don't like to tell her the truth. It terrifies me. It terrifies me. because of all the things she has said. From a simple comment she feels unimportant to a hurtful phrase she said years ago. I don't feel like she does anything wrong. I know deep down she cares about me, but I really can't help lying to her, and I don't even do anything wrong. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't go to parties. She won't let me leave the house. I don't even know half the city I grew up in. I get good grades. I'm quiet. And I don't do it because I don't want to. Believe me, sometimes I would love to know what a party is like, how it feels to smoke a blunt, or how vodka burns my throat just to relax a little, but I do it because I'm afraid. I'm afraid she will find out and hate me. That's why I lie to her. She doesn't know any aspect of my personal life. It's all lies. She thinks I'm a shy, straight woman. I don't like lying to her, but it's necessary. I don't want her to criticize every thought or taste I have. And can you imagine if she found out how they call me and treat me at school? She would kill me. She would kick me out of the house. Sometimes I wish that would happen. That way I feel I would have a taste of freedom, and at least I wouldn't be in her way anymore. But I feel bad son, daughter, for her, but I don't want us to hate each other. But I have never imagined my adult life with her. So, tell me, do you think I'm a bad son? Or is it because of my age? Should I start being more honest? Or is our relationship already lost? I don't want her to hate me. Sometimes I wish I had my old mama back. OP is not an AH. The fear of rejection and the trauma from his mother's hurtful comments led to lying as a coping mechanism. OP is trying to protect himself, and the situation is rooted in fear, not malice. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP's mom 1.5 out of 5. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.